What food isn't worth the effort to be homemade? I'm the kind of guy to go all the way in making things myself. Bread, pasta, pizza, burger buns, flour tortillas, sushi, etc. all from scratch. Never again am I trying to make mochi ice cream. Hard, long and frustrating. I asked my boyfriend if he thought it would be hard to make the other day. Guess I have my answer, lol. I've had multiple people try and make tater tots. You can't recreate the magic with low effort. Yeah, if I want tater tots and don't have any frozen tots to stick in my air fryer, I'm just going to make hash browns. It's not the same, but it's close enough, and hash browns are way easier. But they gotta be crispy hash browns. None of this half-cooked soggy crap. That's why I love my air fryer. Easy, crispy hash browns with very little effort. Grating the potatoes is always the most labor-intensive part. Phyllo pastry. Even Paul Hollywood says to just buy it frozen because it's not worth it. Also Gordon Ramsay says the same thing. I was a chef, it's a major pain in the ass to make. It's a lot like making pasta flour, egg, oil, but you have to keep rolling sheets and layering it. It has almost no flavor and is mainly used for texture. So get the frozen store-bought and nobody will know the difference. I just looked up how to make it from the scratch and it is definitely a lot of work. Feeling myself good for buying something frozen for the first time. Once we made homemade Coca-Cola. It was amazing to see the absolutely crazy different flavors that go into it, and this crazy broth to slowly become such a familiar smell. Came out right on the money. Then we went and bought some Cokes. My dad made root beer once. While it was delicious, a bunch of the bottles exploded. Fortunately the full bottles were stored in the garage, so at least the kitchen remained unscathed. Happens with a lot of those beverages. My grandma used to make Sambucus lemonade and would give a few bottles to my mom too. One day my mom came back from a trip and found the bottle storage area covered in very small glass pieces, and one of the bottles was gone. All that was left was the bit of the bottle and the top with the cork still in. Rest of the bottle basically got pulverized. Why should I pay 10 for pad thai when for 15 I can buy the ingredients and make a much worse pad thai? Crackers. I made them from scratch and it was more trouble than it's worth. This is my one. Takes a while to make, seconds to eat. The only crackers I've made that are worth it is a Rainforest Crisp knockoff because those things are super expensive. Anything with puff pastry. I'm that idiot who makes their own puff pastry. I just like doing it. I'm not terribly good but getting better. I draw the ducking line at Phyllo, though. Well, it's good that you enjoy it. We need people like you to keep the craft going on for longer anyways. I made my own chipotle aioli after having a sandwich in a restaurant and loving the sauce, food processor, eggs, oil, seasoning, and some trial and error resulted in a pretty good sauce and a lot of cleanup. I later learned the restaurant just mixes chipotle powder into Hellmann's mayo. Aioli is typically not real aioli in most restaurants. Mayo is just too close of a substitute, and people are turned off by the word mayo. I've made homemade ramen fully from scratch, noodles, the broth, the chassu, whole 9 duckin' yards literally once in my life. Once. Never doing that shit again. Why does ramen cost 15 plus? Oh right, because it takes ducking days to make properly, lol. I will also never make it again. The interesting thing is that it's super cheap in Japan. If you make 2 servings then you'll spend several hours preparing all the different ingredients, even when the stocks are already ready. If you made those ingredients in, say, 20 times the amount, you'd spend almost the same amount of time. This makes ramen very easy and cheap to make in large quantities. Many ramen shops in Japan have pots of stock that simply never stop boiling, and they constantly have all the ingredients ready so that they can serve you a fresh bowl in 5 minutes. The reason why it costs 15 plus in the US and Europe is mainly because it's served as something exclusive. In Japan you get great ramen for half the price, because ramen is seen as the informal type of meal that you have quickly during your lunch break. Yeah, stuff that never stops cooking always intrigues me with the flavors it must accumulate. Like you'd hear of perpetual stews that never ended, simply got more added to it each day and was left simmering every night. Kind of gross, but also pretty cool. I'd tried, haha. During the winter I've done a stew over a few days kinda on accident the first night. It's pretty delicious. Just don't forget to add water every now and then. Century eggs. Who has that kind of time? My grandma's almost there. She's 96. I've never made it myself, but I watched Babish make baked Alaska on his channel and that looked like a real chore for what amounted to a 15 ice cream cake from Baskin Robbins. Edit: so I forgot Babish's baked Alaska was part of his Sims video and not an independent video. So if anyone wanted to watch it, here you go. Link. Recently my housemate took a shot at a full from scratch baked Alaska. It was absolutely gorgeous. He got the fire on it perfectly and everything. The taste too was incredible. I was so happy he decided to share it all. And he was immensely proud of having pulled it off successfully, but soon as we dug in to eat he said, "Enjoy that. I'm never making this again," because it was such an incredible pain in the ass to make all of it from scratch. I got real baked Alaska once in high school when I happened to visit a friend's house on his brother's birthday. That guy's mom was a champ. There were like 5 kids. Their dad was a fisherman and gone a lot. Mom put fresh made food on the table every dang day and managed to make things like baked Alaska. I don't remember the meal, but I sure remember the desert. I've been trying to make steamed buns, and it's hella hard. Steam a basket, making the dough, and sometimes it just doesn't come out right. I wish my town had more Vietnamese places. I made char sui pork buns once, and it took ages for something that still came out so crappy. They tasted right, but they were so huge and not that beautiful white color. In my local Asane supermarket I found that I can buy them for 2.546. The author of the book Make the Bread, Buy the Butter combed through dozens of typical foods and determined which ones are worth producing yourself and which should be purchased. Strongly suggested. The book also includes recipes and color commentary, and it's a lot of fun. Is it worth writing my own book or just buying a pre-written one? First you should develop your own language to write it in. It's better that way. Write the book. Borrow the language. You're already using English. It's much more efficient to just mug the other languages, drag them into an alley, and rifle through their pockets for loose vocabulary. Link. Blooming fried onion. Cheese. You ever tried to make decent tasting cheese? Anything with phyllodo or puff pastry, duck making them from scratch. Tamales. As a Texan, tamales are life. But I never knew why they were so damned expensive. Then I tried to make them. The recipe and ingredients are easy, but assembling the damn things takes 4 arms and 92 fingers. I will happily hand my money to some nicer bula for them, so I never have to lose my mind with sticky masa ever again. Making tamales is a group activity like making pirigi or ravioli. If you do it by yourself you are insane. Pho. Honestly, it's an enjoyable journey if you like to cook, but it can be an all-day process if you want to do it the traditional way. It starts with a stock pot and beef bones, and you slowly build the flavor into a few delicious bowls of flavorful goodness. I found that I could eliminate some time using a pressure cooker, but that also affects the quality of the broth over the long run. On balance, I'd much rather pay 8 and have a delicious bowl served up to me in a matter of minutes. Croissants. I love baking as a hobby, and that's one of the few breads that I think is just not worth the effort, and I'm rubbish at it. The problem is it's almost the same effort for 6 as it is for 60, but they don't keep. My aunt was a professional baker for a long time. According to her, if you shop at Costco the answer is cheesecake. She was always particularly good at making cheesecake, and she fully believes there's no reason to put in the effort because the ones they sell are that good. I haven't had her homemade cheesecake in a long time, so I can't compare, but those Costco cheesecakes are the bomb. Also, my cat loves to sleep in the lids. Edit cat tax link. Cat and lid tax. Please. Here you go. Link. Anything with odd ingredients you don't use regularly. Buying ingredients for something that you may eat once in a blue moon is rarely worth it. Just get it at a restaurant. Scotch eggs. I made them once for my family and they were so impressed that now it's something I have to make for them every once in a while. I think they are more mesmerized by the presentation. The yolk oozing out does look cool than the taste, because in my opinion they are just okay, not amazing. Quick video of the last time I made them, link yes. I know it's a little too crispy. I slightly over fried this batch. Not an answer. But I generally try to order stuff in restaurants that I know I wouldn't want to make at home. Croissants. I spent hours trying to make those ones once, and the result tasted fine, but they weren't croissants. Getting the layered puff pastry right is beyond my skills and it's an absurd amount of work. Now I just buy some, if I want some. Edit people. Please stop suggesting Pillsbury. I'll buy them at a bakery. Put the ones Pillsbury sells in cans are a crime against bakery. A crime anyways. Pastry baker here. I make croissants in batches of 100 at least. It's pretty easy at that scale if you can get the right ingredients and you know what you're doing. I would never try doing it small batch, all by hand. This shit is tedious. The actual forming process is actually kinda nice and relaxing. Only worth it for literally dozens at a time. Angel food cake. I once made one for a friend's birthday from scratch. It took a long time to make. And when it came out of the oven I was excited because it tasted exactly like the box mix angel food cake. And then I realized that I spent 7 times the money on the scratch ingredients. And it took me so much longer to make the cake from scratch than it does from the box. And I promised myself I would never make it from scratch again. Macarons. Update damn. Didn't realize macarons were so polarizing. This is the most responses I've ever received for a comment. Laughing my butt off. And then you watch a ducking 12-year-old on YouTube effortless make perfect ones. And it's just like alright I'll pay the 3 per macaron in store. Baby sister took a macaron class at a Michelin star restaurant. You bet I put that 12-yo in the kitchen to make some. By now she's old enough to tell me to go buy them. Sigh. For me, anything fried. Deep frying at home takes way too long. And it usually doesn't taste far much better than store-bought stuff. Also macarons. Duck those little guys. They take hours and don't even rise half the time. The effort isn't what makes frying things suck, it's the fact that I now smell like a fried thing from standing over it. Hash brown patties. Who the duck has the time to grate and take the moisture out of a shit ton of potatoes when you can buy a pack of 24 at the store for like 5? The real answer is any cuisine you don't make a lot or often. If you make Italian regularly you'll have a lot of stuff to make most of it. But suddenly switching to another culinary tradition that requires you to buy everything can make it expensive, and then you have a bunch of stuff you don't use regularly. Some of it lasts, some of it doesn't. Also a huge amount of things if you're just feeding yourself. Everything is made for families, so sometimes even basic stuff produces a lot of waste because you don't want to eat the same thing for 4 meals because you could only buy the stuff in those quantities. Takeout is often strictly portioned for 1 person. Makes it very tempting. Donuts. My grocery store has them for $4.69 each, and they taste just as good as any donut shop. I'd spend that much just in ingredients. Bloomin' onions. Wife and I got the huge onions. Parboiled, chilled, deep fried a huge pot. Came to the conclusion that doing this for 1 or 2 onions was just not worth it. If I were creating 20, maybe. Kimchi. It's messy and take a whole day. There's a reason why Koreans set aside a day for making it and make enough to last half a year at least. There was a farmer's market near me where they were selling artisanal kimchi, and I just laughed. Making kimchi is the opposite of small batch. You make as much as you can possibly store and control how quickly they ferment. I get it though. If you grew up eating the one your mom made from a family recipe, other kimchi will taste different and some might even taste not that great for you. But honestly, it's worth cutting that tether and getting used to factory made kimchi still made by a bunch of old ladies, except in an industrial scale, because once you get used to it, it's still pretty good. I will however forever hold in my heart the memory of kimchi making days when my mom would work the whole day salting cabbages and mixing up the stuffing. and make me a plate of the fresh stuffing wrapped in the wilted, salted cabbage leaf Sam. It's an amazing treat only available on the day they make kimchi. Sushi. It's my favorite food, but I'm buying it. I love sushi, but after a few attempts I've learned that I hate making it. Getting the rice-fish ratio just right and cutting each piece nicely is annoyingly difficult. My compromise on this is making a rice bowl topped with fish and avocado. Donigiri. It's basically the same thing as sushi, just without the chef spending hours rolling seaweed. Got tuna. Make tekkadon. A lot of pasta stuff. I'm thinking specifically of piragis. Homemade tastes better for sure, but maybe like 25% 50% better than store-bought. However, instead of being a meal that takes 15 minutes, it becomes an all-day affair with hours and hours of work. 50% better taste for 1200% more effort isn't a good homemade improvement ratio in my opinion. My family makes piragis as a big family tradition. Everybody pitches in and makes them in like 30 minutes. I couldn't imagine doing it alone or with only a couple people. Sourdough bread. At least for me. I don't want to have to maintain a sourdough starter for something I will not make that often. Let the bread gurus have their thing. I'm content with my quick breads. Edit. I love the range of everyone's replies. Half of you are like, easiest thing ever. Only takes a minute per year. The other half are like, it's like literally raising children. Authentic pho. It calls for all kinds of spices your typical home kitchen doesn't have. Star anise, whole cardamom, requires slow simmered broth, plus things like tripe and tendon that are hard to find. Add to that the fact that it's highly perishable, doesn't freeze well at all. It's just a lot of work to serve one person. I'll occasionally make a streamlined version with packaged bone broth, shaved beef, rice noodles and some spices, but it's nowhere near authentic. Sushi. 100% I can't tell if I'm just bad at making it, but it will never be as good as sushi from a restaurant. Pad Thai. It's never as good as a restaurant. Edit. Maybe I'm just bad at making it and or need a new recipe. Edit. This is more divisive than I would have imagined. Appreciate all the viewpoints and recipes.